We're live. First of all, let's give everyone a bit of a wave. Show of hands. Who here knows Ken? Most of you. That's probably why you're here, because you know he's got layers of wisdom, years and decades of experience in business. And so Ken is a regular feature here to make sure you're getting some good value and getting some perspectives that I can't give you. So Ken, happy to open the floor to you if you want to give a little bit of a briefing on what we're going to learn today, a little bit about the topic of what you're going to cover, and we'll make sure you can share your screen and share your slides to visually represent what you're going to do here. So, what's happening, man?
All right. So I was thinking a little bit about most people, and actually, first thing is if everybody be willing to put like a one-liner of what you do, without like any long-winded thing, just as succinctly as you can. What do you do, or who do you help, if that's easier? However, just in the chat, just so we could kind of see, like, everybody here is doing some kind of, my guess would be transformative work. So you're doing that is making an impact, tangible impact on a certain demographic of people. And, so you're creating this transformation in their lives. And, I was reflecting on that a little bit. And the challenge with making that something that doesn't have a beginning and an end, but has like an evolving, never ending kind of feeling to it for as long as people want to join you for whatever ride it is you're taking them on. So that's the first thing, is just kind of, let me just see. I want to see what people put in the shit in the chat here. Hans, I always love Hans. That's like such a fun way to put it. By the way, from a marketing perspective, that's what you want. That like grabs people's attention. I help people die young as late in life as possible. That's a beautiful thing. First responders, veterans. Oh, I have someone I should connect you to. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, great. So just a couple of quick guidelines before I figure out my screen will actually share. Hopefully, it shouldn't be a problem. First, if you have a question, do the digital hand raise, and then that way, if I miss it, because especially when the slides are up, Tyson can chime in and let us know. If you have any insights or thoughts you want to share, post it in the chat. And that way, Tyson, if you can keep an eye on that, and if there's something, that really catches your attention, just interrupt me as I'm talking about things. I don't really have a lot of slides. There's going to be kind of in and out, but I do have a few. So when the slides are up, I want to make sure that, someone's watching what's going on, because it's hard to watch the room and the slides at the same time. So let me see if the share works here. All right. Did that work?
We got you.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right. So, anyone know what this is? This shape? If you're at all familiar with it, just you know, shout out. I don't know if anyone knows, if you've seen it before. What about you, Tyson? Do you know what that is?
Well, I'm assuming your answer goes beyond a circle.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It's actually, so usually you'll hear it referred to as either the most common way it's defined is as a Zen circle. And what it is it's a practice where you're trying to, with one brushstroke, create a perfect circle. So if you look at where like the thicker end is, that's where the brush touched down. And the idea is to try to create this single brushstroke that makes a perfect circle, right? So, and a lot of times it's something that, in certain Eastern traditions, you'll meditate on that and you'll practice it and you'll get reps on that over and over again. One of the things I was taught is if you actually do one, you just keep going. It's nothing special. It's just like, oh yeah, that was a good one. And then you just get back to the practice. That's the point. But so if you're looking at it right now, you're looking at a circle, right? And one of the ways that I was taught to view this is to look at it as if you're above it and you're looking down on it. And when you do that, you can kind of visualize this three-dimensional. So now you can see the shape like where the jagged end is not a circle, but a spiral spinning up towards you, right? And my mentor used to say all the time, a lot of times when you think about things like this, it's the view that's everything. And a lot of times, really what we need is not to do more stuff or have bigger lists or take more action. We just need a slight shift in perspective. And this is the perspective that we're going to talk about today, is looking at circular patterns and just taking a different view and asking a simple question. How can I turn these circles into spirals? Okay, so I'm going to stop the share for a second. And if you can think for a second about, sorry, I wanted to get back to looking at the chat. I can't look at it when yeah, so all of this, so I see the word I help a lot, right? So the question I have for you is, when you're thinking about the people that you help, what is the trajectory of that process? So, and what I mean by that is, usually like Tyson talks a lot about marketing, right? So marketing is the beginning. You're trying to get noticed. You're trying to get someone to realize that you're there and that you may have something of value to them. And then they're going to go through a process from there, right? From that beginning. So I sort of have two questions for you. And I'm curious, now for this, you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat. But the first question is, so they find out that you're there, right? What is the thing that they experience first? So it's their first contact with you. What happens? Tell me a little bit about it. And you can just raise your hand if it's easier to just verbalize it, or you can put it in the chat. It's up to you. But your marketing worked. They clicked the link, hop on a call. Okay. Yep. Someone addressing this. Okay. Yeah, so let's say, Jeff, that they got interested in your message and now they're about to connect with you. So, and I'll give you an example just to define this. So, I think it was Heather who first told me about Tyson and the serving circle, and it sounded really intriguing. So, so I joined the Facebook group, and then I came to my first meeting, right? And the first thing I experienced was Tyson moderating the meeting, and he started with a meditation. And I come from a background of martial arts and qigong and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, this feels very familiar. This feels like home. And he was warm and genuine. And then all the people in the room started talking, and it started confirming for me, oh, this is like my people. This is a place where I belong. And it was by design. That didn't happen by accident. There was a structure to to these meetings. And Tyson had a formula that he would follow, and he had a style of delivery. And that's what was my first experience. So when people come to you, what does that look like? What's your version of Tyson's serving circle?
So once they jump into your world and experience some
Yep.
kind of work with you, some kind of experience, some kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, first delivery of some kind.
So if it's hop on a call, for example, it's not just, okay, we're on the phone together, now what? Right? Something happens there when they get on that call. There's some kind of exchange of understanding between you and them that's either the last time I did this on the curiosity connection, we talked about the purpose of a first meeting, and it's just to get a second meeting. right? So, but the quality of that first meeting is going to go a long way towards determining if there's a second meeting. So, like warmth, that's a great one. You know, like that's what I felt from Tyson. There is a sense of warmth. And remember, a lot of times gratitude, that's another really good one. So maybe that's a better way, especially for this group. What are they feeling, right? Do you create a sense of safety for them? Or is it you give them a sense of confidence? Are they coming to you for help and they feel, oh, this is someone who can help me. They have the expertise or they're listening. And if you haven't thought about this before, I highly, highly encourage this because one of the best things you can do for your business is become super consistent about the way you interact with people at the beginning of the relationship, right? So don't leave it to chance. They're going to come to you from all different kind of contexts and perspectives. You're the one that's going to manage that. Payman, did you have something?
Yes, Ken. I just want to say for me, when they first connect with me, I get on a meet and greet call to get to know them. And after that, I focus on, even before providing value, to build trust. And I do that by inviting them on my podcast. That's how I've been very successful leveraging my podcast to leverage my podcast, not to sell, but to build trust and rapport. And once that is done, they will ask me, so what do you do again? And I tell them, and I say, wow, that's exactly what I need. Say, okay, let's set up a call and just talk. That's been in a very simplified way my process for the last 5 years.
Well, and I think you just said something very powerful, though, which is the first thing you do is get to know them, right? So people want to be seen and heard. And a lot of times that can be a mistake. I've seen a lot of people make that mistake. They immediately start talking about themselves, right? So, and they're like, here's what I can do, here's what I need you to do. But you're building that connection, So right away they're thinking like that's an example of a very powerful first step would be this is someone who listens, not someone who talks, right? So it sounds simple, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
And, it's a design thing. So anyone else have something to chime in? That was super good, Peyton. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to add one thing to that because ultimately, whenever you're selling anything for $1,000, about one thing and one thing only: trust. Now, how do you build that trust? By building rapport. How do you build a rapport? By simply having heart-to-heart conversations. That's why I've been using my
Mhm.
podcast, for that purpose only, to build that trust, to build that bridge. And then they will ask me, so what do you do again? And that's going to open a conversation.
Yeah, I love it. Actually, when we work with a lot of educators and we reframe communication skills to conversational learning, with the idea being you're in dialogue that leads to deeper understanding in both directions simultaneously.
Yeah.
So you're not teaching them things that you know that they now have to learn. You're having a conversation that's influencing you sometimes more than them. Any good teacher will tell you that they're always learning more from their students than their students learn from them, right?
Oh,
So yeah, so that's exactly it. So now you can say, okay, if you're not doing that, how do you design that first contact to create that potential, to facilitate that trust and not have it feel contrived, where it's like, name, date of birth, address, that's not quite what we're talking about, right? So it's back to that warmth and that sense of even gratitude. If they sense that you're grateful for the time with them, all of that can have a real value. Awesome. Anyone else have something they want to add to this? Did this trigger anything for you or any questions on how you could do this? If not, I'll move on to question two.
I think it's worth noting as well that you mentioned consistency, and consistency is important because you get to learn what works and what doesn't work. If
Mhm.
you re-engineer and you say, okay, people coming into my world, I want them to feel this. I want them to feel appreciative. I want them to feel, grateful. I want them to feel like they're lucky to get on a call with me, that they've met me or whatever. And you go through a process that's consistent and you have a consistent intent, you get to see, okay, what's working, what's not, what can I double down on, what can I get rid of, so you can have that. You can just have a bit more of an experimental mind, regarding what's working, what's not working. If it's consistent, if it's not consistent, then you don't know what's working, what's not. Hans has his hand raised.
I'm not sure whether, I mean, Payman, I think already touched on this. From many years when I became an accidental salesperson, I sort of learned the hard way that people really don't care about what I have and what I do. They care more about their own problems. So, and it's also sort of creating that warmth is I want them to tell me their story, because how on earth do I know if I have anything that can help them without even knowing what their problems are or what their priorities are? And at the end of it, at the end of the half hour, invariably they say, well, now what about you? What do you do? When I asked them how I can be of service and how I can be of help. So it works very well. And then after the half hour, I will say, well, I am my most favorite topic, so I can go on forever. We don't have the time to do it now. If you're interested, we can schedule another follow-up call and do part two. And that will actually then be a nice filter as to how serious or not the person is. Because if they don't turn up, they get two tries. And there's nothing good, nothing bad. It's just the way it is. People are busy. They have competing things in their life. So if they don't turn up, they don't turn up, and they get one more chance, and that's it. So anyway,
Yeah.
it sounds like
The
a
other thing
harsh.
is kind of, I don't think it's harsh at all, Hans, because, I mean, part of what you're doing by leading that way is, we talk a lot about just trying to leave the world a little better than we found it, and I think whenever you have a connection with someone, if it's the only connection and you just go your separate ways for whatever reason, it can still be meaningful. Like I do a lot of outreach. I've worked with, thousands and thousands of kids over the last 3 decades. And often I see them once and, but then I'll find out, I'll talk to a teacher and say that kid, that hit different for them for whatever reason. And it was just, I just have to have the faith that just be at my best for whoever is in front of me. And then ripples will spread how they spread. We can't really control that, but we can control who we choose to be in every moment, So, and I think that's what you're doing by, you and Payman both, when you're talking about, helping them first feel seen and heard. It's that whole Stephen Covey thing, seek first to understand, then be understood. Maybe they don't get around to you, but that's all right. You gave them the gift that maybe no one in their life has listened to them for in like a year, and you were that person. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I think that's enough sometimes. Just imagine the compounding effect of that, in the lives of the people who, we intersect with for however long or short that may be. So I'll move on to the other question. And this one's a little interesting because now you got to stretch. So we talked about the beginning. So now we're not talking about the end, but what we are talking about is an inflection point. And the question is this: how will they know when they have arrived? Okay. And what I mean by that is they have developed a familiarity and an understanding and a trust and a skill set with you and your work or with you and your business. And when that happens, how has that prepared them for whatever comes next? Right. So now you're thinking farther down the path. They've been with you for a while. I mean, I think I remember having a conversation with a therapist about this, and they were saying that really the moment they were looking for was when the person would come into their office, and they would just like sit and treat them like less formally, like all of the agitated, uncomfortable body language. It was like just, hey, I'm back. Like you just were visiting a friend. And they knew that that was the moment when a bridge had been crossed from I'm trying to figure out how this is relevant to me and who I'm supposed to be in this circumstance to, I get it. I get it. And I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to it. Challenge me now, push me a little bit. It's that time where Hans was saying you can give them more because they raise their hand for it. So is there a way for you, and you may not be able to answer this today. I'm hoping someone has some thoughts on it. But when you're thinking about your work and the process you take them through, how will they know? And it's not, it's partially how you know, but it's more them being able to recognize it or you being able to help them recognize it. There's some indication. Yeah, Esther, that's an awesome one. When you've handed it off to them, where that's a sign of skill, where they have the confidence to think, I know what to do next. I'm now going to guide, this process. It's funny when we train martial artists, the shift from second degree black belt to third degree, they have to learn how to ask good questions because at that level, they are now in charge of their journey, not us. They're directing us to leverage our expertise on their behalf. So if they're still kind of relying on us to help them get there, they aren't quite ready yet. So that's a great one. Oops, someone has their hand up. Who's
Adele's got a hand
Oh,
raised.
Adele, there it is. Okay.
Well, I've had people in the past say, not only have I been seen and heard, I actually feel like I'm home in my body for the first time.
Nice.
My job is done.
Yeah. Well, yes and no, right? Because now you're dealing with someone who's equipped to really benefit from the work you do, right? So it's like it's a starting point, and again, using like the martial arts metaphor, a black belt is not an ending. My teacher used to say it all the time, receiving your first degree black belt means that we are ready to take you seriously. You've trained for a few years, you've laid enough of a foundation that we can now get to work. Like it took me, decades ago, it took me 4 years to get my black belt, and then I trained as a black belt for 33 years now. So where's the time been invested, right? And I'm still feel like a beginner most of the time. I don't feel like I know what the heck I'm doing, but that's the idea. So you have this point where they've tipped over to where there's a sense of familiarity and skill that should open up all kinds of possibilities for the relationship that you have with them.
Yeah. Well, and just to add something, Travis Barker said, his mom said, whatever you do, never stop practicing. And he said that was the best last message he got, because through all his life, he never stopped practicing. So when someone said, I need a drummer, he's like, ready.
I love it.
Right?
I love
They
it.
needed a fill-in drummer for one night, and he had the album and every song they were doing done in his head in an hour and a half. He was ready.
Yeah. Well, and I think, that's a great, way to think of it, and that's really all it is. So you're, in your work when you started, right, when you gave them, that initial connection, that initial understanding that was enough for them to think, okay, I want to move forwards. From that point on, it's all building to this place that we're talking about right now, that sense of I'm just ready. Yeah, I've been practicing. I'm aware of my own body. I'm aware, I know, I understand, those words start coming out, and now you're ready to do what that circle that we looked at first is designed to actually be, which is a spiral, right? And it doesn't mean you have to have all new stuff either. It means they're ready to elevate just a tiny bit so that the next time you take them through the experience, it's at a slightly higher level. Or you can reverse it and take them down to a deeper level, however you want to view it with your work, right? But it's little things. We don't need to keep reinventing the wheel, coming up with the next great idea. We just have to develop them and help them understand that through that experience and familiarity, you can just layer on more and more impact for them, more and more transformation over time. Is this all making sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, for
Okay.
me, yeah.
Um, Tyson, do you have anything you want to add in before I kind of pop into the next section?
No, I think it's a great topic to discuss because as soon as you start to think about, um, how is it someone comes into my world and what's that trajectory? Like, what's the path I'm trying to walk them on? Because it is true, transformation isn't a one and done thing. It's a spiral. Okay, if I don't necessarily need to go deep with new stuff, but as you say with the black belt, sometimes I can just think about what are the foundations and then how do I continue the foundations with them at a deeper level because they have change going on the spiral. It's probably a different way of viewing business and clients and content and these sort of things. It's very similar to whenever you create content, instead of always trying to create new things, I think people need reminders more than they need new information. We review ancient wisdom and we ingest it time and time and time again. It's never anything
Mhm.
radically new, correct? But
Yep.
we've changed. We've changed in how we digest it, what it means to us, how we implement it, how it relates now to the things we're doing because we've changed. It's a Yeah, it's quite revolutionary to think that way in terms of business, your clients and your audience.
Well, and especially if you have some kind of a recurring member-based model, this can be extremely powerful. And like honestly, a lot of our member-based models, like martial arts schools, gym, whatever it might be, we design it so that we can get to an optimal client base. And then all we're doing is focusing 80 to 90% of our effort on serving them. And there's a small natural attrition happening off of one end, and we just replace that. So we're not trying to get buckets of new people all the time. We're trying to create a rhythm of, slowly nurturing new people in and then celebrating as people leave, you know? And so we don't have to work as hard. It's a very stable model, both revenue wise and culture wise. We protect the culture more than anything else. So, and all that came from this concept that we're talking about. And the concept is actually what's called the flywheel concept. Oh, Hans, go ahead.
I just love what you just said right now, Ken, because I grew up in the hospitality industry. My mother had a hotel in Ireland, and
Mhm.
every summer they would have the same visitors coming back, which puts
There you
which
go.
puts which puts the focus on giving that person or those people a hugely powerful customer experience. So
Mhm.
I tell people if you like people, and you want to build a business with people, spend some time in hospitality so you know how to deal with people. If you don't, go write code for Apple or Google. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't fool yourself that you're in an eBay or Amazon world, because your business is basically as strong as your subscription model. And if you can't turn a happy customer into a loyal and happy client, you're going to have to always search for a new customer, and that's a hard road to hoe. So I just love the way you managed to do that for 35 years, Ken, and build a very stable income stream and a very happy client base. So congratulations, you're my hero.
Well, it's funny because we talk about referrals, and like half of our referrals come from people who are no longer actively members. They had such a wonderful experience. They're still talking about us. We made sure that the relationship mattered beyond, like, we actually consider, like, in the martial arts school, for example, people that leave, they're alumni. They still are on our mailing list. We're still sharing news and events with them. We're still sharing content with them. They're always part of our community. And the hilarious thing is sometimes they come back. I mean, we have a woman right now, she trained until she went away to college, got her PhD, and now 15 years later, she's back training again and wants to be a teacher, a martial arts teacher. So, I mean, you just never know. So you're right. I mean, and isn't it interesting how if 80% of all the people you serve are there year after year, you get to start really tailoring what you do to what they want, because you're not constantly trying to figure out what a whole bunch of new people want. You've got a firm identity. You can listen more deeply and you can respond more strategically. I mean, it's a little bit of a cold word, but and I think that's what, and that I love that hospitality, just the idea that they know their regulars and they're looking forward to their regulars and they're setting up the rooms or the menu even based on what those people are going to want. That's a very, very powerful position to be in.
Actually, a good exercise and question you can ask yourself. I'm not sure how many people have done this exercise before, but to ask yourself, how would you treat a client if the only way you were going to get new business is from their referral? So if the only way
That's a
you're going to
great
do
one.
business, if the only way you can't market yourself, you can't put yourself out there in any way, the only way you can get new clients moving forward is from a referral from this person, how would you treat them? What would you do for them? Right? What would be the energy you would bring? What would be the value you would add? What would be the add-ons you could create? How would you treat them? It's actually a really good it's a good question and it's something to brainstorm, because I think it'll unlock just a different mentality, and people in
Yeah.
hospitality who are really good at generating regular clients they think along those lines, don't they? It's something we can bring to any kind of business you have.
I love that. No, that is an excellent, and I mean, and you just even relating it to what we're talking about. How does the first thing your new clients experience almost compel them to tell a friend? They're when they're really excited, that's when they really want to share. So, and at the beginning, if it's something new and it's something that really resonates with them. I talk a lot about spilling over. Like whatever we fill ourselves up with to abundance, it spills over and other people can get the excess. Sadly, that can work in a lot of different directions. It could be rage or it could be joy, right? But it's like if you see a movie that really touches your heart, and then you've got to go call someone or tell someone or tell them they need to go see it, right? It got too big for you. So a lot of times, especially in service, you create that experience that's so expansive, they almost can't keep it to themselves, you know? So how can you create that at the beginning? And now, that happens a lot with us too, where, one person, we don't have one person come to us and ends up being two or three, for the same amount of work from our perspective. But the real work for us is what to do with them when they show up for that first time, you know? Yeah, Ted Lasso is awesome. But yeah, exactly like that. Exactly like that. That's a perfect example. So, okay, so I'm going to get back on track because I know we only have an hour. So, so Jim Collins wrote a business book called Good to Great, which if you haven't read it, it's phenomenal. And he does an amazing job of quantifying certain things that separated. These were all large public companies so that he could measure the data over like 20 to 30 years. And the question he was asking is, why do two companies in the same business perform so dramatically differently when they're doing the same thing? And he started looking at what he called a comparison company to what he called a 10X company. And 10X company it'd be like Microsoft and Apple. I don't remember if those were two of them, but he's looking at them during certain time frames. And one of the things that he recognized is the highly successful companies had developed a flywheel design to their business. And he literally used that metaphor. So you think at the beginning of flywheel, it's heavy. It takes a lot of effort to get it moving, right? But it's also balanced. So over time, it spins faster and faster with less and less effort. So what it does is it gains momentum and it feeds off of itself, right? And that's how a lot of these companies were able to really leverage their success into multipliers of success. was by creating a model that was designed the way a flywheel is designed. So, and I have used a lot of different principles from Jim Collins in my businesses over the years. One of the things that was interesting about this particular concept was it was geared towards like big businesses like Amazon. And so they were like creating products, or they had like a fulfillment type of thing or a software thing, a little different from the chaotic nature of serving human beings one soul at a time, like so many of us do. So, but what was interesting, I'm going to share my screen again because I got a couple of pictures. Let's see here. Okay, so I want you guys to just look at this. This is actually this is Crossroads Cafe. This was the restaurant in the family center that we built prior to COVID. It was in place until COVID hit for about 5 years, serving all kinds of families, doing all kinds of cool stuff. So, and it was a beautiful space. We put a lot of time and a lot of effort into the design of this. Like you'll notice the soffits are curved. I didn't want straight lines. It took me 3 months to research the green and blue colors, and then drove contractors nuts cutting that flooring in so that there wasn't walls separating, where the seating was. So all this kind of stuff. So it's a really cool place, right? But it's just a place. And it's just like our work. It's a thing that we do, but it's not what energizes it. This is what energizes it. And this was just a very common and familiar thing that you would see in this cafe. Human beings being human. And these were two 6-year-olds who had known each other since they were 18 months old, as older siblings would come in to do various activities. And they were just chilling in the cafe looking at a book together. And that's what matters. So when we're talking about the flywheel, we have to remember that the center of gravity, the focus for everything we do is the people. It's the people. It's the work is important, right? Because it's what creates the banks to the river. It's what creates the scaffolding. But that's, in another martial arts thing, we would say, you are not here to serve the martial arts. The martial arts are here to serve you. You don't learn a technique because the technique is good. You learn a technique because it's going to help you in some way. It's going to make you safer, healthier, happier, that kind of thing. So when we're talking about a flywheel, you want to be thinking about how do you create a momentum gaining experience that's centered around the people that you serve and yourself too, because you have to find joy in it. You have to look forward to it. It has to be fun for you. And as fun as it can be to create new programs and come up with new ideas and all that kind of stuff, it's energized by the people. That's the point. Otherwise, all you have is a really pretty empty space. It's like I hated walking through the restaurant before we opened, like through the whole center. This was like a 16,000 foot facility, and it just felt so empty. And an hour later, when it's filled with screaming kids and chaos and human life, then it felt real. That otherwise it was just a shell, right? So so you want to think about that. Like in all of your work, how do you put the people at the center of it so that they're the thing that drives it? They actually help you push your flywheel if you design it right and you create a clear and compelling vision for how it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give you guys, and feel free to steal this. This is our flywheel. This is what we've used in all of our service-based businesses since I quantified it about 23, 24 years ago. So basically, it's 5 steps. First step is we want people to say, I'm in the right place. We want them to feel, based on that first experience that we talked about, that this is the right place for them to be. And we spend a lot of time, designing that so that it creates that feeling. Like Jan has actually been in one of our martial arts schools. She could tell you about it, just from the colors of the carpet to the way the lobby is designed, all those things were designed to give parents a sense of confidence that we knew what we were doing for them and their kids. So next thing is they fall in love, right? But what they fall in love with is the quality of the people. So we focus first on, we want them, they don't know anyone, they don't know us, they don't know if they can trust it, like Payman said. So very quickly, we have to think about how we interact with them, what kind of listeners we are. All of my teachers are trained when they're working with children. The first thing you do is you drop down on your knees and you acknowledge the child, not the adult. Get down on their level and help them be seen. And for a lot of parents, the fact that someone cares so much about their kids, they're not trying to convince the parent of something, they're going right to the kid's level, is a powerful thing that starts to move this flywheel to the next level. So once they start to get to know the people, know, like, and trust, right? Then they can start to think about what becomes possible, because we never just do one thing. Like when we teach martial arts, we're actually teaching so much more. There's all kinds of leadership, there's all these other things, but they can't know that until they understand who we are and what the place is like. So from there, we get to what Hans was talking about, which is they get it and they want others to get it too. That's where the referrals come in, because now they understand, right? So think about your work. They come in and they're like, oh, I'm talking to Esther. I feel good. I like her, right? And it's like, wow, she is smart. She's got it together. There's a lot going on here, right? They start to fall in love with who Esther is to them, right? Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you do this, you do that. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. And that leads them to thinking, I know someone else that I should bring in on this. I need to tell this to this person. Oh my God, right? That kind of thing, right? And then the final step is they start to treat it like they own it, right? They start to gain that familiarity. It's like, this is mine, my therapist, my coach, my dojo, my gym, right? It's not that they think they actually own it, but there's a sense of ownership to it. And what that does is when they have that feeling, now they look at it with fresh eyes. And now you have the ability to take that circle and turn it into a spiral by giving them more reasons to know in their heart that they are in the right place. And around it goes, right? So our actual flywheel looks like this. And the reason I started with those sayings is it's first about them, but then there's a lot of rigor. You got to do some left brain thinking and some actual business design to create systems that will reliably make this happen, not by you, but by the system that you create. So they have to be guided through a process. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to get consistent results, right? Okay, I'm going to stop the share for just a second so I can take any thoughts or questions on this. I know I'm going a little quick on this, but there's 5 little golden rules that I want to leave you with so that you can play with this concept. So does that make sense though? Is that helpful? Can you see how you could apply something like that to your work, your business? Yeah. Tyson, what are your thoughts on that?
It is true that when you've stumbled upon something that's incredibly valuable, you kind of, like you say, Ken, you want to share it because it's as if it's your own. Like when you watch a good TV show, as what Esther's saying, or a good movie, it's kind of like you own it. It's like you own the idea, or you own you're responsible for sharing it with people. Therefore, their value they receive from the show is attributed to you because you shared it with them. It's kind of like that's the energy you want to have people take on when they're in your world, when they're in your business. You're like, I want to share this because I get to attribute, it's attributed to me, the value that you're going to get because I sent you this way. It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. And it's always been fascinating to me how when you start by thinking about humans and their needs and all that goes along with that, it like creates this energetic shift. Like for years, we kept trying different like referral drives and, like prizes, points, cash, all these things that all the consultants would say to get referrals. And over again, people would get offended. Like they did not want to get rewarded for having brought someone to one of our businesses. The reward was confirmation from their friend that it was a good referral. Like what they were doing it because they believed in us and how we could help other people. So like when they're, so they talk about, bring your kid here or go there, come join me. And then their friend would look at them afterwards and say, I'm so glad that you told me about that place. That's what they wanted. That was the prize, but it was because it's not transactional. It's not, give me this and I'll give you that. It's we're here and we're building something. We're building something that, we care about and we want to build it with you. We want that hotel to, feel like it belongs to you so that every year when you come back, it confirms that you made the right choice and you're in the right place over and over again. So it really is interesting when you make that shift. It's pretty cool. So Jeff wanted me to put it back up on the screen here, which is good because I got a couple more. Okay.
We've got
There you go. So I don't know if you want to
as well.
Yeah,
I
you can
just
hit
wanna
a
make
screenshot.
comment too
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Adele.
to what you're saying, Ken, is because, like, I know with building this retreat out, I picked the hotel that remembered me. I
There
picked
you
the
go.
hotel that oh sorry, I just arrived unannounced and dropped everything and like even showed me prices that were like not in their favor as the hotel, but totally in favor for my guests to come,
Yeah, that's perfect.
right?
Yep.
And it's just
Yeah.
yeah, like and and it's funny because they even said, and we give you earbuds, and I'm like, why? Well, maybe people don't want to hear someone walking up and down the hall, or maybe like I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, right? But people are gonna
But
remember.
yeah. Yeah, no,
And they
you're
already
right.
have
And I think
restaurants,
that's
they already
yeah,
have
yeah.
deals
And
with
we all have
restaurants
stories like
around
that.
for
Yep.
for discounts.
Yeah,
So
no, and you can all think of places that have done this, and I think the most important lesson I've learned is don't do it by accident. It's you have to think this through, test it, tweak it, refine it, and create a design or that is going to literally be momentum gaining and self-sustaining. It should get easier and easier to run your business over time. Um, Otherwise, you're just going to keep pushing the same rock up the same hill, and you can't really leverage that. And I've, seen lots of small business owners, especially they end up just, they work hard and then their business disappears. They can't sell it. They just stop, and there's no real momentum. They were just literally doing laps instead of spirals. And, if they looked at the design a little differently, maybe it couldn't be avoided, but often it can, you know?
yeah.
So, okay. So I know I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to kind of hit these. I call them the 5 golden rules. So, and this is just so that if you want to play with this idea, here are 5 things that you can keep in mind, right? So rule number 1, no more than 5 steps, 3 to 5, right? That's if it's more than that, you're overcomplicating it and you're missing the core levers that are going to propel your business forwards. So some of the ones that we've done are 3 steps. I have a communication one that's just 3 steps, and we build 30-hour workshops off of just those 3 steps, right? So don't worry about, just try to, and if you have more than that at first, more than that steps, just start looking at how many are necessary, can you combine them, that kind of thing. But as best you can, keep it to 3 to 5 steps, okay? Second thing is you want to stay intensely focused on what people will see and experience, right? So like we've been talking about all the way through this, don't get distracted at the beginning by what you do or the program or the offer or the, the delivery system. Human, what see your work coming back at you through their eyes. What are they feeling? What are they experiencing? And how is that going to create this rhythm of progression and momentum? Right. So that's the second thing. Um, the third thing is the steps need to flow one into the next. Right. So this is not like a disjointed thing. You want to lower resistance. Right. One of the things I've said this to Hans for a lot of years, one of his favorite quotes for me is half of all power comes from knowing how and when to relax, right? So you want them to relax. You don't want them to work too hard to figure out how to move through your work, right? So, and sometimes you have to make it a little bit more complicated on the back end to make it simpler on the front end. Take the hit, make it harder on yourself to make it easier on them. That's going to allow for more momentum to be gained over time. So 3 to 5 steps, focus intensely on what they will experience, right? And then make sure that you're connecting these steps so that there's a sense of flow. So if you look at, what we've got here from that perspective, right? It's, we start, the first thing is we're imagining, we literally want them to say that. We want them to look around and in our head, we're picturing them saying, I'm in the right place. What can we do to get them to say those words, right? So all of this language at the beginning here is about them and their experience and how we can amplify it and support it, right? So from there, so now rule 4, and this is crucial. This is how you avoid ending up with a circular process. The last step has to energize the first step in some way. So when that question that we invested a lot of really cool time and had some cool answers about how will they know when they've arrived, right? That moment has to somehow point them back to the first step on your flywheel, so that they're looking forward to going around it again. So, so think of it this way, Tyson and Hans, the very first time you played golf, right? You had an experience with playing golf, but then you keep playing golf again and again and again. What is wrong with you people, right? And you probably ask yourself that at times, right? But what happens? You finish 18th holes and all these things energize you, ways that you can improve, ways that you can develop. Maybe it's I need a new pair of shoes, or if I just had that driver, it would just be better, whatever it might be, right? So, but it's all looking forward to the first step, which is that feeling of stepping onto the course again, right? That's the bridge that you're trying to build. So they're looking forward to it. The person that runs the 5K, right? And they limp over the finish line, but they learn from it. And they know what it means to run a 5K now, and then they're going to do it again, right? For a lot of people. Then some say, I'll run a 10K, I'll run a half marathon. It's all just running, right? But there's a clearly defined place where, and at some point, they'll go from saying, I'm someone who ran to I'm a runner. Now you really have something, right? So that's what you're moving towards. And then let's see. So yeah, so this is just to kind of confirm that bridge, right? It's right here. They treat it like they own it, and then going back to I'm in the right place. For us, that's it. As soon as they start to see it as their dojo, their family center, their gym, their art gallery, whatever it is that we built, there's something that points towards that's another layer, another level, either deeper or higher that they can experience, right? So, and then rule number 5, who more than what or how. Okay. So they're both there. Whoops. Hang on. Let me get out of here for a second. I go back into the share. Sorry, I want to go quick because I want to respect the time here. Where'd it go? Here we go. I don't think I can go back. Oh, oh, oh. So I'll just do it from this way. Can you see the that original flywheel slide?
Yep.
So basically, the bigger lettering, right? That's the who, talking to the who. The smaller stuff underneath, that's the what and the how, right? So there has to be a what and a how, but it's in service to the who. Make sure that the who is first and then the what and how follow behind it. So, and that's very businessy, concrete language on each of those things underneath the headlines, right? So, this isn't a dream it, be it type thing. This is get clear, focus on the humans, but then fuel it with rigor, be a business owner, to make it all come together. And I'll shut up now, 8 o'clock.
Ken, how can people jump on board with you, find out more about you, get on board with what you're doing?
I think that was Steph put the last slide in. Hang on.
And while you're doing that, I'll explain with golf. It's whenever you have a great shot, that's what keeps you coming back because you're trying to do that again. Our friends have a saying whenever we're out playing golf, if someone has one great shot, we're like, that's one that keeps you coming back because you're trying to replicate it.
It's so true, It's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get this to. Oh, there we go. There it is.
Cool.
That's me. So so you can reach out to me, but spiraluplife.com/launch. That's like actually this one of the reasons I thought of this, Tyson, is our next 3 months of newsletters is going to be building out the flywheel for people.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Denise was here, this would have been a sneak preview for her because she's one of the clients for that. But there is we have a little trial thing. It's $29 and it lets you get, a month subscription to our service and stuff. You get our book for free and everything. So yeah, but it's you can also, if you want, if you have questions or something, just email me at ken@spiraluplife.com. That's the easiest way to find me. So, and one of these days I'll remember to do a post in the serving circle, but cool. I usually forget the deadline.
Yeah, that's why I try and remind people. Hans, do you have your hand raised? Anything quick you want to add before we jump off?
No, very, very quick. I like what you were saying, Ken. It reminds me of I think it's Daniel Pink's book called Driven, that identifies the three things that keep us driven, which is autonomy, mastery, purpose. It's the mastery part that explains the obsession with golf or anything that we want to get actually good at. It's just a part of the human experience. So I think when you're going, I think that's actually an interesting thought process for me to put into part of the process. What can people really feel challenged to be good at? So,
yeah. And one of the best advice I was ever given was don't look for the answers. Keep asking bigger and better questions until eventually the questions disappear and an answer will reveal itself. And that's what this is about. It's like, what would it look like? How would it feel to people? Don't try to come up with the answer. Keep asking yourself the questions, and then you'll end up waking up in the middle of the night having to write down whatever came to you in a dream, sometimes literally, or in the shower, that kind of thing. So yeah, so just think differently. The view is everything. Go ahead, Hans.
No, you just triggered another thought, and I don't want to have people wait here too long. Tom Schreiter, called Big Al. Tom Schreiter he has, I think, network marketing questions. He's got 9 words that trigger the subconscious, because it's the subconscious that will say yes. If you're talking to the P brain of your conscious thinking brain, you'll always get a no. So those nine words are really powerful to know and use. Not that you're manipulating people's subconscious, but as Tom said, they're not using it themselves, so there's no reason why you should feel bad about manipulating it for them. But it's that subconscious is what you want to trigger. So you just look for Big Al books.
Yeah. Oh, the other good Dan Pink one is To Sell as Human. And that touches on a lot of this as well. That was a great, but he wrote that a few years ago. But it's
Yeah,
just
and the quote from that comes, the beginning quote comes from Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. And it goes like this: the only thing you have in life is what you can sell. And the funny thing is, you're a salesperson and you don't even know it. So when people tell me they're no good at sales, I tell them they're doing a great job selling me on the fact that they're no good at sales.
I love it.
Hey, thanks, Ken. I think everyone here will enjoy giving a round of applause to Ken here. Thank you for your wisdom. We'd love to have you back. Everyone, reach out to Ken if you haven't already. Please do so. We'll be back same day and time next week with some more wisdom. Please implement some of these things into your business this week, and then reach out to Ken. Let him know what you did implement. I'm sure he'd love the feedback and love the ideas. And
Yeah.
what matters is what you do. So anything else you want to share with us, Ken, before we wrap it up?
I'm much of this is I'm best directed by other people. So if you guys have something you think would be interesting to learn about or cover, just let Tyson know. I'm always bugging him like, what do they want? You know? So, and I've been immersed, especially in the idea of member-based businesses, recurring month after month, year after year, decade after decade, you serve people to the best of your ability. So that's been a lot of my focus for a lot of years now. So yeah, so that's it. Just tell Tyson, and then he'll plant some seeds, and I'll think of things that I can contribute.
Love it.
I love his group. So anything I can do to help, I'm on for.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you all. See you same day and time next week. Post in the serving circle. Reach out to me if you have any other questions. All right. Thanks, team. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.